Good morning, church. Sometimes we need to pause, pull ourselves back a little bit, and simplify our lives. There's this really cool passage in Nehemiah chapter 3. It's very obscure. You have to read the whole book of Nehemiah to kind of catch this, and I never saw it going through it about 3 different times. And then one of the commentators that I was reading really opened my eyes to it. Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 30, there's a man named Meshullah. And in chapter 3, Nehemiah is listing they're the heroes of the faith of the Old Testament. They're these men that are going to rebuild the temple for Christ, for the glory of God, in essence. And it's families, it's a big family group. There's these wonderful men that are going to do that. And they're all listed with all, their tribes and all that good stuff. And it's cool. But in the text, when you read it a little carefully, Nehemiah chapter 3 verse 30 speaks of a man named Meshullah. Their name meanings are very important. His name means devoted. And this man was devoted to his God, his task, his neighbors, and his nation. It's kind of this just all-encompassing name that was given him because of his deep devotion with his family line. But the phrase that follows him is different from everybody else in this whole chapter. They're all building the wall next to their house. This family built this section of wall next to their house. Benjamin's family built next to his house. So they're working near where they live to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem for the glory of God. But this guy, it says, he was not building in front of his home. Rather, he was building in front of his quarters, his apartment, basically, his room. He didn't have a house. He was not a wealthy man. He was not a man with a larger family. He was just a simple man who he would have been thought of as probably as insignificant by most, and yet here he is listed in this list of faithful people who worked very hard to accomplish this great work of God in 52 days. And he didn't have to have a lot to do it. He was a minimal person. I believe he teaches us that minimizing our earthly things and maximizing God's mission is sometimes the best way to live our lives before God. And Meshullah is a good example of that. Sometimes it's a hard American lesson because we try to have more stuff and we want to acquire more. And here's a man who was very minimal in his life, but used mightily of God. Jesus sent out his disciples and told them to go out. In Mark chapter 6, we read where he told his disciples to literally go out 2 by 2 to do ministry. And he said, I don't want you to take anything with you. He gave them authority over unclean spirits. And he said, take nothing for your journey except a staff. No bread, no bag, no money in their belt. Just wear your sandals and go. Get going, take staff and go. And so it was a passage where he was teaching them in the early days of their ministry, trust God, minimize your stuff, trust God to provide as you go and minister for me, and watch God do great work. Mark chapter 10, and it's recorded in 2 other gospels as well. But Jesus looks at the rich young ruler and he says he felt a love for him, the rich young ruler, and he said, one thing you lack. After the rich young ruler said, look, I've done all the commandments and all the stuff. One thing you lack, he said, go and sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you'll have treasures in heaven. And come follow me. And of course, the rich young ruler, as far as we know at that time, sort of walked away from all that and rejected that call on his life. But it was a call to minimize your stuff. Let's just get after ministry, follow me, and get after it. And then Isaiah chapter 5 says it this way, woe to those who add house to house and join field to field until there's no more room, so that you live all alone in the midst of this giant land. You got all this nice stuff, and you have no relationship. All alone, giant land, lots of stuff, no relationships. Our call in faith is to build relationships, and it's to minimize our stuff and maximize our potential with others and our relationships, to serve the Lord with all our heart and be a part of something bigger because we're willing to surrender our stuff to Him. So I pray you'll meditate on these things today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing with others, and be blessed. We'll see you back soon.